I'm Clint, and welcome to Swatches Livestream 54. We're going to be taking a look at the Adventure Characters Art Challenge entries. These will be the sketches and concepts for the challenge. It is based on Dungeons and Dragons artwork. We're going to be looking at a couple of fantasy characters, both heroes and villains or enemy characters, without any background, reviewing those from you guys that have submitted them in. The viewers, the patrons here on Swatches. Now, I'm, of course, Clint Cearley. I am an illustrator, best known for my work with Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons and a variety of other games and outlets. But I appreciate you joining in. I do apologize for the late start. We're about 20 minutes late due to some technical difficulties. I got back into YouTube and they changed things up on the back end on me, and I wasn't familiar with what it was trying to have me to do, and I was trying to sort that out with how it works with OBS now. But hopefully I figured it out, and we're going now. And the false start earlier is not going to hold us up too much. There we go. Let me lower that. Okay, so it looks like people are joining in, and it's giving me green. So if you're watching this recording, you might want to scrub ahead a little bit just while I double check all of these settings. But otherwise, the particular art challenge they're working on, you can see here, this was started 2 weeks ago. They have 2 weeks in order to create these sketches of concepts. And then they will have 2 more weeks to do the final image. Now, we do want to go over a couple of announcements. Let me jump over here. I did not write these down beforehand. I will just try to remember what they are. Thank you for sticking around and coming back this week. I was out of town last week. I should be in town this next week. But you can join in, join the challenges, and support the channel on patreon.com/swatches. And I also need to mention, okay, for you guys that are patrons that did not go read my last post, I will mention in here in case you missed it. I forgot. I'm behind on projects, a little scatterbrained right now. I forgot to do what was necessary in order to initiate the processing on the Patreon for this last cycle, which should have been on the 1st. And thus, nobody's getting charged, and I'm trying to find a workaround. I will have to give you guys an update on that. What I will likely do is when I finish the Patreon video, which will be a video guide on the painting process, then I will put it up for sale on Gumroad, and it will be set its retail price, but I will send the patrons the coupon code that I set up that will allow you to get it at your patron standard rate. So if you were at the $10 tier, you will be able to get it at $10 instead of the higher retail price. That is about what I can come up with that, since I cannot process Patreon on any time other than the 1st of a month, and I don't want to delay it until next month. Trying to turn down the heater a little bit. So if you're interested on getting with that, there is time. I didn't think there was going to be time. The cutoff was going to be the 1st, but as I neglected to run things correctly, then if you want to get in on that, just set up a pledge. You won't be processed out on Patreon, but if you become a patron out on Patreon at whichever tier, depending on what rewards you want, then I will be sending out the messages to everybody that is currently subscribed, and you will be able to get it at the discounted rate. This will be 10 steps on the creative painting process, going from concept to rough sketches, block in, finishing, all those sorts of things, and talking through what the major things you need to be focusing on at each stage is. and things that you should be asking yourself, questions, answers that you need to have before you move on to the next stage, and also things that you don't want to forget to do at each stage. Because what I'm seeing a lot is people not following a good flow to their artwork, and that leaves them very confused and making it more difficult than it needs to be, because they're trying to do things out of order, like trying to build a house without putting the foundation first. You start with the walls and then going, oh, but I need a foundation. Okay, so we'll just somehow jack up the rest of the house and then put a foundation under it. It gets complicated, and working with a painting is a similar way. All right, on that, anything else? I probably need to open up more dates, but if you want to have a one-on-one consultation with me, that is at art-mentor.com. You can do a 30-minute or 1 hour consultation. I have to go out there and open my calendar up when I know that I'm going to have some time. But we do have some people joining in. We have 20 people on stream. Amanda, Will, Dan, thank you for joining in. I appreciate it. Everybody else that's just hanging around, thank you for joining as well. Yeah, Will, it's probably getting late for you. I just had some other things to take care of earlier in the day. There's probably other announcements, but I'm forgetting what they are. That's what's coming to mind. Then art challenge changes. Yes. So I will recount a little history if you have been just recently joining in the channel with the art challenges and you don't know kind of what has preceded this. Let me catch you up a little bit so that you understand what I'm trying to do here. Previously, the art challenge was open to anybody. You didn't have to be a patron. And we got to the point where I was getting 40 or more entries per challenge, and it was just not feasible to review that many images in a stream. So I made it for patrons only. And that dropped it down to a dozen images for a little while. Then it has proceeded to grow back up to 35 this week. And again, guys, that's not scalable. So something has to be done about it. If I just take 3 minutes a piece, that's 90, that's 115 minutes of non-stop analyzing feedback for 35 images. That's just 3 minutes. I would love to give everybody lots of time and delve into the images and, you know, break down what you're facing and how to improve your image, but it's just not feasible. You start talking about that many images, even if you're just doing 1 minute a piece, that's nonstop 35 minutes of feedback. And I can't keep that up for, you know, much larger numbers. So I have to find a way to limit the number of entries for these art challenges. I've got a couple of options. I'll mention them to you. You guys, please comment below in the video. Let me know which one sounds good to you, or if you have a brainwave and have a better solution, then yeah, please also put that down there. I'm opening it to you guys. I'm just trying to be transparent and let you know what's going on. And I want to find a solution that works good for me and works good for you. Amanda, hey, happy to be here. Well, thank you, Amanda. Thanks for joining in. I don't need to submit a sketch, right? Says Elspethnaut. No. You're welcome to join the stream if you don't, you know, submit stuff to it. And you also don't need to submit a sketch to submit the final in the next stream. So, but okay, with the art challenge, in order to limit the number, I could only come up with, you know, a couple of really legitimate ways of doing it. One is a lottery system. I guess I could write these out here. One is lottery. Everybody can submit, but I'll just randomly choose, like, you know, random number generator. We just pick some and we look at those. And number two is higher Patreon tier. Instead of being the $10 tier, you move it like the $20 tier. I'm not a big fan of that because it has the smell of I'm just trying to jack the prices up on you. And that's not really what I want to do, and that's not how I want to come across. But it's an option, and it would limit the number, so I'll put it out there. Number 3 is, I'll put it in quotations, tickets, where essentially I could put a Gumroad item up, which is just a code, where a link where you can go upload the stuff for the art challenge. And there'd be a limited number of tickets, so it'd be like 15 tickets, and you go out there and you pay, I don't know, a number, you know, whatever price for a ticket to get your stuff reviewed for that particular art challenge. And the art challenge would be, you know, basically per month, because it's every 2 weeks and you have 2 parts to it. That would be one option. There would be a limited number, and then you would just buy the tickets for the art challenge that interests you. But if we're actually doing tickets and if people are paying to do this, instead of it just being this bonus to the Patreon, then it could become feasible to do more of these, because as it is, I don't really make money off of the stream. So that's another item. Number 4, there was something else. You know, if you could turn it into a course somehow, but I don't want to have to take on doing a course at the time. But, all right, well, that's all I can come up with. If you guys can come up with another good idea of how to limit it, I'm trying to keep it as open as possible and as cheap as possible. But I would love if I was doing 15 images or less, so that I actually have time to get into it. My heart is to be able to explain the concepts and to dive into this stuff that will really help you improve. But the more images there are, the less that I can do. I will mention I did go out to Spectrum last week, Spectrum Live, Kansas City. It was molded into Planet Comic Con. So all the Spectrum booths and people were just there in the middle of Planet Comic Con. And there were still some good artists. Got to see Leonardo again. He won the Grandmaster Award for the Spectrum annual book. I think it was deserved. Beautiful work. Actually picked up a couple of his original sketches, his little thumbnail drawings. I did not think to bring it with me, but they're beautiful. I'll have to show it to you sometime. And I got to sit in on a panel by Ian McKeag. You guys probably are familiar with him. He did the character designs for all of the characters in episode 1, and then most of them for episode 2 and 3 of Star Wars. He also did some designs for Harry Potter, John Carter. So yeah, a lot of major stuff, and really, really good listening to him talk. I'm going to recount a little story that he's had that is a little applicable here before we jump into this, so I want to tell you about it instead. So he worked directly with George Lucas, episode 1 in particular, and it was basically him, Doug Chang, who did all of the industrial, like ships, buildings, droids, all that stuff. Then there was Terry Whitlatch, who did all the creature designs. So it was the 3 of them, primarily, just putting out hundreds of pieces of artwork. And they'd print these off, and they'd put them on the table, and they'd put them up on the wall. And George Lucas would come in, and he had his right-hand person or assistant, I can't remember who he said that was, but she had like a little tray that had 2 stamps on it. You know, like you'd stamp it in ink, you know, that sort of thing. And one stamp said, okay, and the other stamp said, fabuloso. And George would look over all the stuff. And George didn't really know what he wanted. He didn't tell them what he wanted. He would just say, like, I need a princess. I need a droid. And that was it. Very, very hands-off as far as telling them the look of things. And so he would just look over all of the stuff. He'd reach out and grab one of the stamps. Dunk. And if you hit OK on your piece, then that's a good idea. Keep going with it. If you hit Fabuloso on your piece, which is rare, then it's great, it's perfect, it's going to be in the movie. If you didn't do anything, then it's just discarded and it goes away. And you come up with new ideas. That's kind of what I have to do now. That sort of art director, because of the number of pieces. If you're doing good work, I'm not going to say much about it. I'm going to just say you're on the right track, doing good, keep going. If you're making some mistakes or it's a really good talking point, I'm going to spend a little more time on it. So for you guys that are a bit more advanced, you're probably going to start getting a little less out of the art challenges, and you'll need to do something like consultations or courses when I get those going. So, okay, let me double check with the chat. I like the idea of the course idea so that people can cycle through instead of it being the same all the time. You could try to categorize basic issues, composition, analyze, and do a lottery system with a couple of images. Yeah, lottery is fine. I'm fine with lottery if it's free. I don't want people to be paying into like Patreon or something else if they only have the chance to do it, because that's just gambling. That's no good. It would have to be free if we're doing it that way. If you can categorize pre-selection, like find the ones that have key points. Yeah, that's something else, Kayla. I considered that. If I just pre-selected which images had good talking points, then go through that. But I also know, just from having done this for 2 years, that it ends up being a lot of the same people over and over. Either one person keeps doing things really good and you keep going back to them saying, look, this is how you do it properly, or one person keeps making the same basic mistake that you need to be, touching on. So I'm kind of half and half on that one. I think that has a place, but I don't want everything to be based on that. Why don't I do 2 different streams? 1 week you review half the entries and next week review the other half. Gatto, I consider that as well. And that's not unreasonable if I'm getting compensated for the stream feedbacks. Right now, I don't really make that much money on them. I mean, you can kind of say I make money through Patreon, but really Patreon just pays for itself. It doesn't really pay for the time of this. Just make a sign up like 20 in the first come, first served, get in. Will first come, first serve, like, I don't want to have a cutoff on the number of people that can enter, because that means people will absolutely rush through the creation process and then submit it in before it's really ready, just so they know they get it in first. Unless it's the ticket style. And then it is, at least you could, buy the tickets as early as you wanted to. But yeah, anyway, I don't want to talk about it anymore. We got plenty of stuff to go forwards with. We can continue this on the Facebook page or in the comments of the video once it gets posted. Yeah, that's the other thing, Jonathan. Really, really good point is time zones. First come, first serve is not fair to everyone, because some people are going to be awake and some people are going to be asleep when it becomes available. So yeah. Okay, so let's jump into these. I don't even think I'm going to try to... I've got 2 hours of work to do tonight, so I've got to fly through these. Probably not even going to open them in Photoshop unless I really, really need to. We're going to just open them up here and talk through some of it. Amanda Green, going with Elementalist. You know what? Let me... I think I closed that. I meant to open up my thing over here and have it off to the side so that I can look at that as I'm going. There we go. All right, let's go back to Amanda's. I had to move stuff around my screen here. Okay, Amanda is doing the Elementalist. I assume this is elementalist. Okay, now the elementalist was not supposed to... Oh, yeah, okay. It can be an elfin or satyr. Blade mage, going with another satyr style, and the golem. Okay, check the proportions on these. They are... Yeah, double check the proportions on these. The arms like really short, and overall they seem really small. They're more cartoonish in their shortness instead of being full human proportions. Make sure that you're referencing the pose from a photo. Go find one. I'm not going to draw it for you. With the blade mage, we need to double down on him being a master of arms. I don't know what these are, so those need to be understandable. Let's play up the swordsmanship of him. It's swordsmanship kind of first, then it's augmented with some of his powers. So, yeah, this is on a good line as far as just kind of being mud created, but it's got like kind of a goofy expression. If we can just make it maybe a little more menacing looking. And I feel like I don't know which way he's walking. I don't know if he's going this way or that way. So like even if you just put the face on this side, so it looks like he's kind of walking this way instead of up on top, that would be better. So let's move the face around over there. Swatches, if it's being compensated for your time, maybe let current patrons vote for limiting it to a higher tier. For new patrons, they won't know any different. Yeah, so I could put it up to a poll and just let the patrons decide. I'll put you up the options that I can think of. Okay, Andrew Doris, good reaction to these. These feel good. One note on this. Okay, with the blade mage, her sword is getting a little... I'm all for fantasy, but that's getting a bit too on the barbarian side as far as just this thing is massive. So let's trim her sword down and make it more elegant. Make it a little bit more beautiful and not just so massive. That's more of a paladin barbarian thing. Small note on this. No, I don't need to update that right now. Thank you. Small update on this. A small note on this is considering the movement, that if she just moved here to there, her hair would be behind her, not in front of her. And say, well, she just stops, so her hair whipped in, back around. Okay, well, if that's the case, then her skirt would need to do the same thing too. So either both her hair and her skirt should be going the same way, trailing behind her, or she's stopped enough that they've switched to the other side. One or the other. Also, that arm is getting a little lost along with the pose. It goes right along with the torso. Let's see if we can do maybe something about that. Goblin Scout. Okay, it's okay for the direction of the goblin, but having it way up here is not real good use of the space. If we can have him holding it, going more horizontal, then we can fit it into a smaller area and it would be easier for print. Now that's one of those things the fiction of this is it would be used in a book, and this is dedicating a lot of space to something that's not very much there. So let's just change that so it's going more horizontal, like he's about to stab something with it. Orli. Okay, yeah, Orli did these three up concepts and then went on to color this one. So she's doing the hunter. The hunter, you are doing the dwarf. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm glad some people are doing some dwarves. Not a lot of the dwarf choices here. Not many paladins either, I think it was. So that's running in the right line. Let's size that up for her, though. Let's make her crossbow bigger because she's already pretty small. So this thing is, that crossbow's itsy bitsy. So let's scale that up and make it kind of funny that, you know, this little dwarven redhead is using what's almost an oversized bow for, you know, crossbow for her. You got some of that there. That's cool. Got some little traps here. All right, good. Yeah, keep going with it. I like seeing some of the color, good flow to the energy of it. Yeah. You might even show, just for fun, like a couple of leaves being tossed up behind her, kind of adding to the movement of what's going on there. I wouldn't say you need more than that. We don't need to have ground or anything. Just a couple of leaves would be interesting. Yeah, play up that bow and figure out what your lighting is going to be, obviously. But this is good for the sketch. Next up, DeVries. DeVries. Okay. Thanks for joining in. I don't recognize your name. I don't think you've done the challenge before. I'm good. I'm particularly liking the paladin. Male or female, human. Yeah, that paladin's pretty cool. Going with the blade mage satyr. Pretty good. The troll. The troll's reading a bit too witch-faced. Like old witchy face. Can we go slightly more animalistic? A little less human, maybe a little more animal. Maybe you give him less of a big nose, more of kind of like a muzzle sort of thing going on. Yeah, I think that would feel better with him. And let's give him more of a gut too. Seems like he's kind of fat, so we can have a kind of big bulge here on the back, and then we have a pot belly hanging down on the front, and then a bit more of an animal style face. A little dumber looking. They're not very bright. So don't really have seen things say. These two are both pretty solid. His head looks maybe a little too big. I'd size that down by 15%. That would feel a little better. And let's give him a couple of a small sword, you know, on the back, a dagger. Something else. He should have a backup weapon, I feel, for the blade mage. Orli, you're welcome. Sorry I couldn't spend more time, but good direction. Love the energy. Now, I also want to mention something Orli brings to mind, which is she's just got the one character, and that's fine. If you guys can't do all three characters, don't do all three characters. If you only have time for one, do one instead of doing three poorly. And so, yeah, just make sure that when you're finished, I'd love if you had at least just one good character to put into your portfolio. And then I would say that's time well spent. Okay, Beniamino. Beniamino, you're doing some solid stuff here, man. I like this. Okay, Paladin. It's got a good energy to it. The gold, silver plates. Okay. With this hand, it's not really doing anything right now. Just as a little extra, let's have her holding a necklace with some sort of religious relic or icon on the end of it. So whichever deity that they might serve, then put something on there. You can maybe mimic some of the colors and the designs from elsewhere. That would be good. Let's see some gold threading faintly in that back. This thing, the cape. Blinking on that word. Okay, goblin. The pose is not really coming across for me with the goblin. I think if you were to even just get his head and drop it so that drop his head lower, so he's like a little more hunched back, and yeah, I think that would feel better. He's just kind of a little more proud. They're a little more skittish, you know, they're a little more rat-like. So, yeah, just a small change. I'm trying to think of a little change there. And, yeah. Yeah, they're good colors for the Paladin. And it makes sense. The Paladin is a holy warrior, and it makes sense that they would have these pure, rich colors. Richness, you know, like gold has a richness to it. Silver has a richness. If you can even do a little more work on that silver, obviously this is a sketch and you probably would, but if you can get some good gleaming, almost chrome-like, you know, reflections from it or shine from it, that would be really good. The Barbarian, making some excellent choices here. Good textures, good layers across it. You got, you know, belts, various layers of belts and stuff. The war paint is excellent. I like that. Not a big fan of the hairstyle, though. We just got the one kind of piece. I would say either get rid of it, bald is fine for a Barbarian, or let's play up a cooler thing with the mohawk. And yeah, just finishing on him. I feel pretty good with him. Someone, what a name. Someone. All right, someone said, what did you miss? We just went through the top row. We just went over those guys, reviewing them. We're going to start on the next one with Brandon, doing quick feedbacks because we got 35 entries tonight. All right, Brandon. Barbarian. Dude, the Blade Mage is super popular, as is the Goblin. All right. Barbarian is feeling... I'm not getting a lot of energy from them. The idea with these guys is this character should encapsulate everything that's awesome about this class of character. Like, if this was a book and we had all the classes and information about how to play this game, and you flipped across and you saw a Barbarian, you should look at it and be like, dang, I want to play Barbarian. Check out that dude. Or you flip to the Blade Mage. Okay, she looks like a complete badass. I'm playing a Blade Mage. And it should be everything that is awesome that would just make you think, that's the person I want to play as. And I'm not really getting that from this guy. Feels like he's just kind of winding up to play baseball. Check out some other action poses. Go to like Pinterest and find action poses. Or also look at action poses from comics, where you just really get a lot more out of a swing or a wind up, spreading the feet maybe wider. Can we get more out of that? The basic design's okay. Big fur cloak, long hair, kind of Viking-ish. That's cool. I'm okay with that. With her, the smug look is fine for a Blade Mage. But she basically should be channeling, I'll say this and it kind of applies to more people. Blade Mage should be mainly channeling magic through their weapons and less from like hands. So a wizard's going to be like hand casting, that sort of thing. A Blade Mage or even an elementalist is going to be more like that. But a Blade Mage should be having things like, you know, fire-empowered sword, lightning-empowered sword, daggers that can stun people, daggers that can add gravity to the room, whatever. So if we want fire here, then give her like a dagger. Maybe she's got, you know, a dagger in each finger, holding them there, and she's got fire coming off the blades of those. That would work better. She's also just kind of boring to look at. There's not a lot going on there. Also with the hair, like the hair is not doing anything interesting. We want to try to add more interest to this. So go check out other artwork from Dungeons & Dragons. Also look at the Demon Hunter character from Diablo 3. And the other Diablos probably have some good concept art for them as well. But I particularly know Diablo 3. So look at that. The Goblin. It's going on the right line. The stance is little Maybe we're pushing it a little bit. And this arm just hanging directly down seems odd. If we can do, even if we just kept the arm there, kind of had the hand pulled up and they were just holding that extra dagger. Or if he was reaching back with that, this arm here and he was pulling a dagger out of a sheath in the back. Either one of those would work. And yeah, he doesn't need such tight clothing. It can maybe be a little looser and just kind of have some rags and stuff hanging down. Next. Yeah, as far as like spacing on some of these characters, I just don't want them like all overlapping so I can't see them all. So I'm less about how you've arranged them on the page and more just I want to be able to see them all is what I'm thinking. Yeah, it's a bit of a goblin, Green Goblin from Spider-Man. Yeah, do go look up some other goblin references. It's like go look at some of the goblins from Harry Potter, particularly I can't remember if it's the last movie or the next to last, where they break into Gringotts and have some beautiful designs on the goblins that work at Gringotts. You know, when Hermione is dressed up like Bellatrix. And go look at some of them, because there's a lot of humanity and personality in those, but they're obviously not human. So those are good things to look at. Dan, dude. Elementalist, satyr. I'm really feeling that. Good action from that. The little swirly sense of wind. I always remember Kiki's Delivery Service by Miyazaki. And she's like trying to fly, and she's channeling, you know, trying to fly through her broom, and then the wind like, and her hair starts floating up, and that sort of feeling. So that's working well for me. Barbarian Orc. Yeah, it was pretty straight up. He's a little like a lineman, you know, that sort of thing. Can we adjust it maybe a little bit, just like one shoulder is down more, or he's got an upper body turned slightly one way or the other, or his lower body is, just not that everything is directly at us. Can we tweak something so there's a little twist in his body or a little tilt, a little more? Like if we had to drop the hand over here to indicate like the weight of that hammer is pulling that shoulder down more, and that other arm is having to balance it out a little bit, that would just be a little nice tweak there. And probably some paint or large scars across the torso, because otherwise that's just straight torso. It's not very interesting. That's a car alarm. I was just making sure it wasn't mine. Okay, the golem is getting too human. That's more like a major golem that's more real, more yeah. So this should be a really basic creature, very rough, almost one thing all the way over. Just like the whole thing is just made of kind of like Clayface. Batman's villain, that's just, or Sandman. Yeah, more like Clayface, but just has like this mask. They don't wield weapons, so you know what? Do I say that? Minor golem, rusted sword. Okay, he can have a rusted sword. Yeah, not like fingers. It's just kind of like clumps. It's a really rudimentary thing. That doesn't really, it doesn't have a persona, and it doesn't have a physique. It's just a simple spell animating a clump of earth to go fight for somebody. Oppo, hey, how's it going? Salardi, welcome. Sam, good to see you. Daniel sent me a message and said, hey, I know this is bad quality. I had to take a picture with my phone because whatever the internet issue was at the time. This is the best he can do. Paladin is feeling good. Okay. Okay, for a second I thought this was his legs, the inside of his legs, but it looks like you have like a tabard thing. But let's make sure that tabard thing is blowing across to the side like you have the back thing here. Otherwise it is easy to read as two skinny legs. And that would just clarify that a little bit. Let's bump his chest and shoulders up. Instead of having the shoulders down here, bump them up so that it looks like his armor is bigger and his chest is prouder. These guys are righteous warriors. A little over the top. His sword is over the top. That's okay. Can we do something a little more interesting to it? Can it have maybe some holy designs, maybe even cut through in the middle of it? Or it can have almost like a cathedral window would have the right feeling, where it's like the cathedral window shape is cut in here. And that way it make it look lighter, and then it also has this light religious overtone feeling to it. Okay, the satyr, elementalist satyr. Yep. Okay. Yeah, that's another one where the body is just kind of straight on, and that usually doesn't read real well. We want a little twist to it. And the same thing with the staff. The staff and the sword are both completely flat to us. It'd be better if we could turn those, get a little more angle, three-dimensional view out of them. The troll is getting a little too fancy, like armored up. I don't understand the big club thing on the back. I would just take the club off. The club is kind of optional if he has a weapon, but it just gives him a really weird silhouette. So I would just take the club off. It would actually improve it. And with the faces getting a little too cartoony, go check out some of the orcs from Warcraft, the movie, and look how they handled that anatomy with the tusk and stuff, and try to bring some of that realism back into it. Overall proportions are okay, but let's scale back. Like, let's take off this armor, leave mainly bandages on the arms, take off the club, a bit more realistic on the face. Big mohawk hair down the back, that's fine. David. All right, David. Okay, what do we got? We got the Blade Mage. I think biggest thing for you is we need to get photos. I don't know what you're using as reference if you're using anything. It looks like you might be using a poser program. Use photo references of an actual human. And same thing I said with the other one. Let's be making sure that the magic is being channeled through the weapons, not just, he's not a wizard. And also go look at more D&D stuff. Go look at Pathfinder stuff. Go look at concept art for the game For Honor. Look at those. You have some basic shapes here, but they're not really reminiscent of anything. So go try to ground this in reality. Ground it in the reality of actual anatomy and proportions and posing. Ground it in the reality of getting a traditional, knight or warrior outfit and then giving it a fantasy twist. Don't just go full fantasy. Figure out what your starting point is and then give it a twist into the fantasy. Same thing with her. She's feeling more superhero or Flash Gordon than what we need for this. We're not going for the swimsuit, sexy thing. She should be somebody who's an adventurer, a traveler that looks like she could go out in the woods and crawl through caves and stuff. So again, go look at more reality, go look at good artwork from these other games. He's about on the right line as far as what his general look is, with his clothing, still pretty basic. Let's shorten him down more and make the head a little... The head's about the right size, but if we can decrease the rest of the body, just making him a little squattier, a little more rat-like. Iwa. All right, 3 concepts. Did you send in 2? Is this the main character? Okay. Iwa, doing the Hunter and the Minor Golem. Hunter, 3 concepts. Okay, this is a new change. I was going to mention this earlier, I forgot. A new change with the challenge, because we're getting so many entries. From now on, just submit in 1. All right, a couple of you have sent in multiples of the same character, and in the past that's been fine when we didn't have that many people entering. But now that we have so many people entering, it's like even more time involved. So from now on, you pick whichever one is best and you send that one in. Until we get less numbers, then I can spend more time at it. First character is a little too, I don't know, anime with that. It's better when you add this, adding the sunglasses, adding the ties. That feels better. Crossbow is good design. Stance is good. I like this layered style, but I like the smaller collar. So I'd say a combination of the 2 of those with the cloak. The short skirt thing, not so much. The chaps make sense. Interesting design for this, but I don't think it fits this particular character. I'd keep that idea in your back pocket, because that could be useful for somebody else, not quite for this one. So I'd say probably head of this one, kind of the cloak of that one, and you don't really want the skirt. I feel like this you could turn this into almost somebody else. I kind of like these boots though. I swapped those boots over there. Minor Golem, this is a different direction, but I'm kind of happy with it. It's kind of neat. Let's not have any free floating things. These are super basic entities, and so they don't really have the magic to have floating arms or anything. But having the squat little body, kind of a Aztec or Incan mask, and one little rocky arm out there, holding that sword up. That works fine. I'd say go along with that. Not the floaty one. Either mask is fine, but let's not have it floating around like that. Illyria. Illyria. Thank you for joining. Goblin. Barbarian. Blade Mage. Another Blade Mage. Another Golem. Yeah. Okay. All right. The stances are... his stance is okay. It's getting better. These 2 are too basic, so let's make sure that those are... we get more design out of those, more movement out of them. His little grass skirt, gray skin tone, that's okay. But let's make the spear a little more interesting. Like, he's got a piece of sharp metal and he's tied it at the end of this thing. All right, just a simple affixment. There we go. Yeah, please, sometimes I forget that it gets cut off in my overlay of my webcam. I don't see that on my screen, so I forget that that's there. Okay, yeah, barbarian dude. Let's again, I'm not going to tell you what pose. Find a better pose, interesting pose, and let's play up his traps and trapezius muscles. Make those bigger, and give me some more layers. Like, give me more belts and pelts, and like a flask that he has drink in. A couple of things like that, just some general interest things like that. I also don't know how those boots work. Are they scale boots that are made into boots. Probably just give him like some leather boots. Blade Mage. Walking pose. Let's make sure that the upper body should be going the opposite direction as the lower body. When you're walking, your upper and lower body, you know, go different directions because your one leg's advancing and one arm's going back. And so they should be facing slightly different directions, back and forth. And that little turn will help give more depth to it. Let's change this arm. It coming out right to us is looking a little funky. So if that arm could even just be, like coming down towards the blade, and he's got, you know, the fire dancing from his hand over to ignite the blade, that sort of thing, that's fine. Jackie going with the elementalist. Okay, now the elementalist should be general at this point. That's one of those things like later in the game you could... what is the word? I almost had it. You could specialize. That's what I was looking for. Your character, you know, could specialize into a certain kind of magic. But this is just elementalist in general. And you've gone like full superhero. This looks like, I can't remember, I don't think her name is Ice, but it's something like that in DC. So we want to go out of superhero. We want to go to Dungeons and Dragons, classic fantasy. So this is somebody that can wield different elements and have various magical powers, but and it's okay if they hover a little bit, maybe they have that kind of power, but remember, this is medieval fantasy. So that's got to change up there. Oh, I'm sorry, Dan, I have to click to OK your link, and I misclicked. I had a mouse slip. So if you want to share your link, put your link back in there, and I will OK it. I have to OK any link to be shared in the chat. So share that again, and I'll OK it. Sorry. Goblin. A pointy hat. If you work on that, I'll buy it. Maybe it has like things that hang down on the front. Maybe a little less of a cloak. Like, it's fine if the cloak kind of comes off the back, but you have it more like one arm's coming through a hole and the other arm's on the inside. Like, it doesn't really make sense as far as that. So we've got to work on that. And make sure, again, look at plenty of references as far as getting a good pose, looking at some of the designs. Jaroslav. Okay, well, a lot of new people this time. So everybody that's joined in and just jumped into the challenge, thank you for joining in. And hopefully you guys are going to be enjoying it. I am... You know, I've been talking about what are we going to do with the art challenge like it's a problem, but it's one of those good problems. It really is. I love seeing you guys being this enthusiastic about being involved and growing and learning and filling your portfolio and just jumping feet first into these things. It's so much so that, you know, we're like, okay, we've got to figure out how to put a little more constraint on it. But it's awesome, and I don't want to make you guys feel like, you know, I think of this as a problem. I just think, you know, how can we make this better, but where it's also still works for everybody. Okay, elementalist, just too passive. Again, this needs to be the cool character. Everything that you look at in the book needs to be what sells you to play that character. Everything that's awesome about that character. This is too passive. So we need to see them, you know, doing some magic. We need to see them in a more interesting pose. We need to see them not, you know, maybe that would be okay for somebody like an oracle, somebody that's all insightful and about, you know, soul searching, that sort of thing. But this isn't them. Elementalist is somebody who's going to be using the magic in nature and bending it to their will to help them to fight and you know, gain riches and all that stuff. Yeah, same thing with the paladin. The paladin's looking really thin. This is a guy that should be a little more over the top. This is a righteous warrior. This is a guy that has large plate armor on. He's not as big as the barbarian, but his armor should size him up pretty good. They usually should have some sort of iconography reminiscent of, you know, whatever, you know, holy deity they serve or whatever righteous cause they're fighting for, that sort of thing. You know, let's have their sword out so they're ready to do battle, or let's even on the paladin, you could have him having like their sword out and he's like in the middle of a meditation or prayer, you know, and the sunlight's bouncing off of the blade, and or he's got like this holy light coming down on him, that sort of thing. A goblin scout, he's more on the right line. They should just be kind of a little comical, so the squarish head is interesting. You don't see that a lot. Funny little pose. Just keep going with him. Jonathan Monroe. Hunter, barbarian, minor golem. Hunter is solid. Yeah, it comes from more of a tribalistic sort of culture. That's fine. Barbarian. He's got some good attitude to him. The minor golem is getting too advanced. Let's go less with it. We'll simplify it. Make it more rudimentary. Like fewer bigger shapes, maybe a little more lopsided, a little cruder. The blade is good, like just an ugly blade that he found somewhere, and that's all he's got. The barbarian, the feet. Yeah, that's catching me off a little bit. Like the feet seem kind of small, and like if you're gonna have this, then let's bring it all the way up to his calves instead of just the little booties. You might even just butch him up even more. We can go, you know, stretching it. Just we're pushing the anatomy even a little past normal, like spreading the legs just a little bit, creasing his overall width just a little bit, 10%. Yeah. Jonathan says, I missed the Spirevale challenge to try to make the humans tie in together more. Oh, they've got a good visual look. Liking the layers, liking the attitude from them, that works well. With this axe, it's not resting on anything, and you can't really hold an axe like that. If we can show, if you can adjust it so that this is coming across his shoulder, and it's more front and back rather than side to side, that would work better. Otherwise, he needs to be holding it in a different pose. All right. There are other things to talk about in all of these images. It's not that I don't see them. It's that I don't have time to talk about them. Justice. Again, guys, put your stuff out on the Facebook group. A lot of you have been, and that's great, and you're getting good feedback. I would listen to a lot of the feedback. For those who want more feedback, go out there, put it on the Facebook group, and you know, get some feedback from the rest of you guys. So, Justice, the golem, not golem, troll. Yeah, it's not really reading troll-like to me. It's reading something else. Yeah, let's get the legs. Let's kind of scale them down a little bit so it's a little more disproportioned. Big upper body, kind of a smaller lower body, and maybe like a fatter neck. So instead of this thin jaw with these big tusks, it's a little more, where the neck is kind of bigger here. Instead of the tusks coming out, they're back a little bit. Just a little more awkward, less aggressive. They're not super aggressive. Yeah. Maybe a little less animal actually on yours. Satyr elementalist. I'm not sure what's going on with the legs, if that's armor. It looks like she has mechanical legs, which we don't really want. That's not a direction we're going. So go ahead and give her normal satyr legs, but also make sure that you're referencing something with that, or studying how those work. With the, it's the leg of like the back end of a deer, and the way that those joints work. You have her like she's really crouched down right now, and let's lengthen her out. Let's let her legs not be so crouched. Kind of the same thing with this guy. He seems really kind of scrunched. Like you could just get him and stretch him extra 15-20%, and he would get to a better proportion with the overall body. I'm getting confused with the arms. I'm getting confused because you have this one blade coming out right here, and then you immediately have this other blade, and then you have both arms crossing in front of each other. Let's drop the skull thingy. Yeah, let's drop the skull thing. It's more of a hunter thing, and this is the blade guy. So, yeah. And if you can sell that in the colors, then that's fine. Otherwise, you might want to think about redoing the pose on those arms. Kayla. All right. Doing the barbarian orc, satyr elementalist, and the troll. Barbarian orc. Kind of need to make that a little bigger. There we go. Yeah, legs are getting a little too short on that one. We're getting a little too disproportioned on him. The orc should be more normal human proportion as far as just like upper body, the lower body, head length sort of thing. Let's do that. And if we're going to do the, then let's have the other arm up too. Instead of one arm's down here and he's like, but he's looking this way. Like if you stand in that pose, just right now me doing it, that doesn't feel normal. Like I'm not going to have my hand up here and be like, and look the other way, and then have that arm low. If I'm going to be like, I'm going to have both arms up and be like, So we could have both arms up, or maybe both arms down. Or we've got two arms on the blade. So make sure you try the pose out. I was talking to somebody in a consultation this last week, and that's something I had to tell them, which was before you draw your pose, try actually standing in that pose. And you can you can usually tell if it feels awkward or not. It also gives you an idea of kind of where the weight is distributed and which way the muscles are pulling. And even if you don't even take a picture of yourself, you're going to have a better idea of what the character is doing and what feels natural. So, satyr. The design is good. The pose leaning. The pose leaning is good, but we probably need to have that staff in front of her instead of behind her. Leaning, again, with that going back kind of the other foot. Where did my mouse go? Yeah, if that was maybe in front of her and she was reaching out and kind of balancing against it, that would solve it more for me. Maybe not quite so much of a lean, a little less of that, and just be kind of coming right there. And then she's blowing up some water or leaves or flowers or whatever. Yep, up to you. That's good. The troll. That's another one. Let's drop the head down lower, like they're a little more hunched back. Yeah, keep working on this body. This body is like as far as a first pass, it's okay. It gives the ideas like branches, basic kind of beard that's all matted, basic club. But these proportions don't work. Like the anatomy doesn't work. So try to get this idea and to match it up with either a human that is, more obese and how the body actually folds that way and how it distributes the weight when it gets that heavy. Or you need to go find an animal like a great ape or, some sort of orangutan and figure out kind of how that body works. That it's humanoid, but it's got different proportions and it carries itself differently. Leonardo. Okay. Hunter, elementalist, troll. Yeah, Snuggle, can we get a little more out of the pose? It's very basic, just standing there with a thing. Or even if we just had the head turned a little bit, like 3/4, and they're kind of looking back at you from under the hood, that would be a little more interesting. Oh, no, I don't have them in that folder. Hang on. So these are some images that I pulled up from, just kind of show you guys. This is from For Honor, the game. I recommend going out looking at images of the character from the final game if you want to see good designs. Also, the concept art for the game has some excellent images as well. This is a really good example of something that you come up with for the Blade Mage. I'm trying, oh, it doesn't want me to do that. I don't know why it has a hard time with that. Okay. This is good at Blade Mage, like standing still, but the arms are kind of giving action to it with good diagonals. Then the unseen wind is kind of blowing this stuff around. Again, making it a little more dynamic when she's not actually walking or that sort of thing. The hair is also giving some good motion to it. And then she's not looking directly at the camera, and they don't have to. Remember, these characters don't have to be looking at us, the viewer. They can be looking elsewhere. That's okay. This is really good. Character is not moving, very static, but excellent pose, giving a lot of attitude and excellent shapes. It reads very well. Good level of overall rendering, very clean, good use of colors. Everything separates very well, understandable. This one, limited color palette, straightforward, walking right at us, frontal view, but excellent shapes. And the shapes in the folds and all that stuff adds everything that we need. Like the golden designs in this, the subtle designs in the white. This is a really good example of getting a straightforward idea and just executing it really well. And that's something we have to learn how to do, is you don't have to do something crazy. I mean, you can do something crazy. Like if you want to show the barbarian just in the middle of this awesome, you know, big axe swing, that's fine. But you could also do something like this. And if you have access to using things like, you know, blowing robes in this, like you see here, then you could use that and actually add a lot of dynamic to the image. And the understated colors works really well in the favor of this particular image. The white, the dark brown, the gold, and then just the blue eyes accenting off. Good choices. This is really cool. You can go with an older character too. Remember, we didn't all have to be young and attractive. Older fella here. A lot of character to this, as in you see a lot of history. The broken shield, a lot of rust on it, layers to all of his clothing. Obviously somebody in a very cold environment. Very understated pose, but it works well because they're good shapes, and you get some attitude just out of that confident head, you know, tilt. So very clean shapes that works well. If you can execute it that well, then you can use a simple pose. Another one, we've looked at this image before. I'm a big fan of this. Marco DeVries, that's who did this one. Marco has excellent work. I recommend everybody go out there. You can search for that name, Marco DeVries. What can I say? Look at it. Do it like that. When I grow up, hopefully I can do something like that too. Another great one from Marco. Again, look at these understated colors. Very limited color scheme, but it works very well. It's within the realistic side. The lighting isn't fancy. He has basic, nice, soft fill light from one side, a little accent light on the other side. Yep, not fancy. The, you know, top-down view here with the light. Nothing fancy there. Everything's understandable. Good textures, good shapes. And all clean background, same sort of thing you guys are working with. This is a good piece, too. Really nice design, clean shapes, simple pose. But notice that just tilting that head or turning that head to the side a little bit gives him, like, he's on the alert. Even though he's in this passive pose, he's on the alert. So small little change there. Notice the body's not straight at us. It's off to one side a little bit. In most cases, that's what you see on these, except for this one walking right towards us. We've looked at these before as well. Good shapes. If you want to go a little more stylized with it, you can do that sort of thing. Make sure you really play into it and make sure that's consistent across all of your concepts. Leo says, could you share these images on the Facebook group? Absolutely. Yep, I can put them out there for you. I want to run through those. Okay, let's jump back over here. Where were we? We were looking at, I think we're looking at these. Did we move past these? Nope, I think we're here. Okay, so like in this case, if the head was even looking off to the side, that would be a little more interesting than looking directly at us. The scepter or the staff. I think the staff would be more interesting if he had the staff planted right there and his arm was kind of doing this. Like he's steady and he's lighting up his other hand. Right now he seems just kind of timid, like, And both of these guys just seem kind of passive. So we want to push that up a little bit. The troll, we need more out of it. It's super straight on. So can we get more out of it, and can we push it a little less human in the face? Yeah, look at some other troll characters. See if you can either get rid of the neck or stretch the neck or give it more animalistic features, or, you know, spread the eyes apart. Play with variations to see kind of what works there. Yeah, figure out a pose that shows more angles to it, a little more action, him scouting around maybe, that sort of thing. Lily. Okay. Good clean line drawings here. Very clean line drawings here. Goblin. Okay, your goblin's maybe getting a little too compressed. Like this. This guy couldn't even possibly chase this guy because his legs are just so small. I like his overall design. Let's double his leg and midsection, right? Let's lengthen that out a little bit more. But the hunched shoulders, the good attitude, the tusk, the ears coming up this way. Overall design works really well. Barbarian, getting a good feeling with that. His elbows seem in too much for that pose. Feels like he's doing, you know, this sort of thing. So let's, you know, macho him out. Get those shoulders, elbows out. He can have them more in the front, his axes. So he can be more like this, or he can have them out even further. But let's not have them just locked in real close. If he's going to be in the, then we could even adjust his legs so that either one leg is in front, he's stepping forward when he's doing it, and kind of button that chest out there, or he's got his legs planted wider when he's doing it. One or the other. Right now he's just kind of standing there. The big pelt, like it, design is good. The one handprint on the chest. I don't know, that's a little odd. I mean, on the, not the chest, the torso. Also, scale up his hands. You're edging over to the exaggerated side, and with a character like this, when you make them that massive, you can almost double the size of the hands for it to make it look right. So let's scale his hands up a little bit, and let's also scale up the weight of those blades. Like, we can almost make the blade, the wood, 50% thicker. Maybe add some more ties to them, leather straps to them. He's used this thing so much, he has to tie it together. Maybe it has another blade on the back side of it. Yeah, let's just make it look heftier because this is a massive dude. Yep. Elementalist. She looks startled. Her design is interesting, but she looks startled. Can we give her more of a mysterious look rather than a startled look? Like she's just kind of eyeing the place, like she knows something you don't know. A little more secretive. Yeah, with the ears down and the big eyes, it doesn't make you want to play her. It makes you think like she's about to be got. So, yeah, let's adjust that. And you might have to do something different with her hands. Like, you could keep her arms almost the same, but if she's like pulling her hands apart and she's conjuring magic in the middle of them, then you could keep a lot of the same stuff you've already drawn and just adjust it. Okay. Dwarf Hunter. All right. I always say that. All right. I have to do that to kill a couple of seconds while I analyze it. First two are my favorites. Third one, not so much. Second one's okay if we do something else other than point with that arm. If he's pulling something out of a bag, if he's holding something. First one's okay. You might have to thicken up the body Because when the body is thinner and small, you read it as a child. In order to get the fantasy dwarf, you probably want to go a little thicker with the limbs and the torso. Blade Mage. I'm going to go with that bottom one. He's giving me a good feeling. That top one's really cool too. But I would rather see that adjusted to be like a wizard, where he has like a staff and he's pulling stuff out of this book. That's cool. It's more of a wizard thing. Blade mages don't really use books, at least in my game. I'm making this up. I'm in control. The Arabian vibe, I'm fine with that. That's neat. And let's have a little show of magic coming from the Blade Mage, number 6. You could just have some lightning coming off of the blade, doing that sort of thing, some fire embers, some ice effect coming off of it. Anything like that's fine. Forest Troll. That top one has a better pose. So I'm going to say that top one as far as the direction for the pose. But I also like... I'm not sure what's going on here. Like moss and stuff. Like if you kind of keep him a little rocky and he has like moss, that's good. I also think chains are not a bad idea. You can like wrap chains around his arms. Maybe he has some strapped across his body or across his shoulder. And yeah, if you can use something else for the club other than, I don't know, I'm not sure what that is, just a tree or something with spikes on it. If it's a piece of a boat, he's got the rudder of a boat and that's what he uses for a club, that's cool. If he has a wagon wheel still hooked to the axle and he's using that, that's more interesting, so let's sub that out. No. So kind of a combination of multiples. Marcel. Yeah, Orli, I know you're having your conversation here, but you said, I think the Blind Sword Mage is an amazing idea for an original character, but this challenge is about representing a stereotypical character that would represent the whole class. Orli is exactly right. That's what we're trying to do with these images. We're trying to represent the class in general. And then, idea being that you could play the game and your character could start specializing in different things. Your Blade Mage may be because you like playing the arcane powers, the magic powers more, that he starts using that primarily and less about the blades. Or if your elementalist wants to double down on electricity, then their garb changes to reflect that, and now they have metal bits that come off that conduct electricity. But this is just the class in general to give you a quick idea of what they're about. All right, trolls. Either one of these trolls is good. Good shapes in this. Looks like you might have had fun playing with those guys. I feel a good sense of weight to this. The neck, the way the body kind of hangs, the musculature. If you want to do this guy, I kind of like that guy's ears. But if you give him more like cow ears, they kind of hang down a little bit. So it makes him look not too bright. He's just big and brutish. This guy's good. Yeah, pick whichever one you want out of that. I'm fine with those. Hunter. I like the hunter kneeling, scouting out with the bird. That's cool. This one looks more, I don't know, a little more snipery, ambushy. That looks a bit more active. I think that's a good representation. Let's see. Not so much. That's kind of a spell card sort of thing. He's, you know, doing a prayer of protection, shielding him, but not for just the character image. That'd be more of a spell or action thing. For Paladin, that's along the right line. Maybe a helmet would actually set him off good, or some insignias and designs across his clothing. You know, she's got a bit of edge to her. I think that works well for the hunter. That's getting a little far off for a stereotypical. These two are both good for Paladin. He's a little more off class, like a middle combination of kind of like a barbarian and Paladin. Design or color ideas. All right, those are just very simple colors, so you know, keep playing with that. A rule of thumb, if you ever pick up I do have a character design book. If you guys haven't picked one up, most of you I think have, but you can go out to the store, swatchesart.com. The store I have out on ArtStation. I have a character design ebook, 66 pages on how to design a character. If you've not picked that up and want to know more about what I'm talking about here in a second, then you can go do that. But with color, a good rule of thumb is make it analogous. That is, all of the colors are within one family. Like, it's all cool colors around gray, or it's all warm tones around this, you know, particular tan. I then have one accent color, like a red, or a blue, or a green, and that's a minor. So it's like 10%, and then analogous is the 90% or 80-20, but no more than that. And that can usually give you a really nice combination that most of it works together really well and is very harmonious. And then you just pull out a couple of accents with those other offsetting color outside of that color group. Martin is doing solid work. Good stuff, man. I made all of them because I want to test myself in terms of time and quality. Also, I want to add these new characters to my portfolio in Krakow, Poland. We have a great event soon where many companies will be there. So maybe I will have luck this time. I'll let you are short of time, live streams, you can pick 2 or 3. Okay, overall, very happy with them. Good ideas. This is something else that brings to mind that I'm glancing at this. The rest of you might want to adjust yours. Like, we don't need to see down on the characters, really. Some of you have, like, the back foot is much higher because we're kind of looking down on them. It would be better if we were just looking flat at them where their feet are flatter. We're kind of a bit lower down. It's not an extreme angle, but it just keeps them from having these really offset feet. Standouts. Actually, they're all pretty killer, man. The golem in this case is not really what we need. It's not a bad direction. It just doesn't match up with what we need. It should have basic legs. Elementalist. I'm getting a little lost with the greenery on the background. So, yeah, that's kind of a sub thing. That's like more of a druid direction where it's super into just the plant stuff. So I would sub that out for more cloaks, good attitude, like the profile pose. On the hunter, he's got a lot of good attitude. I appreciate the angled view on the blade. The flat on view of the skull isn't really working for me. You might run the skull the other direction. So it's going this way, or an armor plate, or a series of skulls. So he's got like multiple skulls. Cop is going by. All right. Good goblin. Yeah, I'm feeling this guy. It's good crouchy pose. Looks deadly, sizing you up. She's got good attitude. I like that. Electric blade kind of energy. Again, with this, if you want to have like the energy on the hand, even if you just gave her a gauntlet and it had like energy coming off the gauntlet, I could go as far as that. With the troll, yeah, I am losing the hand and the arm back there a little bit, holding all that stuff. I have to look at that for a little bit to understand what's going on there. If you do the lighting right, it might answer that. Overall, I like this. The legs, not as much. I think we might even shorten the legs up. Make it a little more upper body. And this is like super heavy on this end, and it gets smaller, and he's holding it really far back on that end. So he has his arm up, but he has a weight way out on the end of this. That's just not a way you could really hold something. We need to give either a counterbalance on this side so that he could hold it. We also might want to drop his arm down because his elbow is as high as his shoulder, and he's holding something really heavy on the end of it. So you got to check the pose on that. The overall direction with the greenery, the tusk, just kind of the, you know, the brutish big jaw. That's good. We won't take the guy, the hanging dude, off of it. That's getting a little too much on to the dark side. Good paladin. Like that design. Good pose, good shapes. Yeah. Keep going. Matt Oates, elementalist, elfin, barbarian, half-orc, goblin scout. Okay, with the elementalist, this is very basic. Maybe turning his head one way or the other would help. And maybe let's give a ripple through some of his cloaks. He's got all these hanging cloaks, but they're not doing anything. If we even just have a little ripple, wind is moving, that would help as well. Barbarian, half-orc. If you're going to have him be a half-orc, let's give him some tusk. They don't have to be massive tusk. Let's give him some little tusk. And maybe take away his eyebrows. A little more orcish. So I'm thinking maybe even like a broader nose, little tusk, no eyebrows, but you keep the beard, keep the rest of the facial features are more human. That'd be a good combination. If that other arm, try to think of what it could do. Even if he just has his arm where his thumb is looped into his belt, or he's got it resting there on his side, that would be better than just hanging there. And you could have this, instead of, these look like pants. Oh, is this thing hanging down in the front? Okay, I was taking that as something in the back. I think once you finish painting that, it'll make more sense. You can add more dimension to this on the silhouette. This is just very clean. Like, show me how these layers kind of come in and out. This is also somebody you could even change up his body type. Either make him like muscular and make him more jacked, more bodybuilder, or make him more like, I want to say like the Mountain, you know, Hathor. That actually have big guts, or kind of like Hagrid, you know, they're just beefy. Yep. It's feeling like he has short legs. That's something that's kind of play with that. Goblin Scout. Can we get a more of a scouting pose from him? Like, can he be looking around? Can he look a little more like he's on the prowl? Just see if you can tweak that a little bit to get more of that feeling. Mako Y. Okay. This is interesting. These are, I would say, almost more historically accurate. Like, I would expect to be able to see that guy in a, like, a historical character, some Viking show, and that would be pretty legit. I don't know they had chainmail, though. Vikings have chainmail? I don't remember. Anyway, these are good starts because you're basing it in a lot of, like, I want to say historical realism. And now what we need to do is add the fantasy twist. So, you know, most of the people are doing it the other way. Most people are going like really fantasy, and I'm saying bring some historical realism into it to add believability. Now, I'm kind of saying the opposite. You got good believability to start with, but now we need to bring some more fantasy into it. The barbarian dude, can we make him a little more over the top? Kitsune, first time catching the stream live. Hey, man. Well, or lady, I don't know, from Kitsune in the name. Thanks for joining. And glad you could join live. Yeah, okay. Make sure you're checking the pose, like his arm, his right arm on the left, feels like it's too short. And it's just kind of flat to us. And go look at some other artwork to see how to fantasize these and come up with some a little more over the top shapes, more over the top axe designs, and yeah, how can you spin it that way? The hunter, having the hunter as it's a younger gal, isn't it? Longer hair, I'm guessing it's a girl. That's okay. That can be okay. And you've got like a face paint thing going on. That's cool. But we need to give her a little more attitude. We need to be able to, like, she's young, but this girl could go into, you know, if you're watching Critical Role, you can go into a cave of gnolls and just, you know, kick butt and take treasure. So can we make her look more deadly? Can we give her some more weapons? Can we give more attitude to her expression, to her stance? Can we give something more dynamic to the flow of the design of the character? Yeah, I mean, Kylo's right. Like, a more exaggerated axe on the one dude. I kind of like the idea that he has this long-handled axe, and this guy just has maybe an extra long melee distance attack. But the blade needs to be twice as big, 3 times as big. We just have a little more fun with it. With the hunter, again, like, go look at, you know, the demon hunter from, it's actually, I think it's the demon hunter from Diablo 3. There's an image that has 3 versions of the character. One is when they're basically in their cloth and leathers. There's another version where it's the same character, but they have like pieces of armor on. And the last is like the fully armored, decked out, all the weapons, everything. And, you know, go look at that and see what, you know, kind of influences you could add into yours. Goblin. I'm not digging the helmet. Let's see. Give him a little bit more in the loincloth. Give him a little dagger hanging down from a simple strap. And if you can come up with a different design for the helmet, that's okay. Even if it's like a human helmet that's been broken and he's kind of repurposed it, or it just sort of fits on his head, or it's too big and it kind of lops to one side, that could work too. Nicholas. Nice clean lines. I like that. Let's scale that up a little bit. Blade Mage. Good poses, good silhouettes for a lot of these. Particularly this last guy over here, man. What a killer over there. Good character. Okay, the Blade Mage. Pretty much just keep going with it. Good shapes, good pose. I'm not sure what this is hanging down. It looks like you know what it is. As long as you can sell that for me and I know what it is, then I'll go along with it. I think it's just maybe wrappings, and the wrappings are coming undone. Elementalist. This is something else. Like, look at his Blade Mage, and he's using, I call it zigzag in my ebook, characters designing and drawing ebook. A zigzag pattern. It's, you know, this angle, this diagonal into this diagonal into this diagonal with another diagonal, and it's a good way to lead the eye through down a character and gives it a flow to the character. And instead of just everything being completely plumb, that is straight up and down, straight horizontal, you start cutting the fabrics and adding the straps at angles, and it gives this cool kind of imbalance to everything. And you can actually give a character a lot of dynamics through just how you do that, and you don't even have to play the pose up that much. But that's why I'm telling a lot of you that to try to get more out of the pose, is because the design is very static, where this design already has energy built into it, so he doesn't need as much out of the pose. Okay, Elementalist. I'm digging this. This is good. Got, you know, this is like a Doctor Strange hand, you know, signs. Almost like a dancing pose. I think that works, which is difficult to do with these legs. Let's get some sort of skirt hanging down. We can keep what we have there underneath, but let's give it like she has a kind of skirt thing that's flowing around her, that it doesn't have to go all the way around. Maybe it's even just large pieces of fabric that give kind of a skirt silhouette. But that can give you a flow. Otherwise, it's just kind of like they're wearing shorts, and that looks a little odd. Good shapes in the head, particularly. Big fan of this force troll. Interesting take. Good shapes, good sense of weight. I like the long neck works for it. Kind of the goofy expression. A little bit of, you know, Sid from Ice Age. The eyes are real far apart. Nicholas says, I was going for a sort of oriental dancing pose for Elementalist. Yeah, I thought you were doing that, or like some sort of kata, like a martial arts kata. Either way, it works really well. I'm a fan of that. Yeah, that troll, that might be my favorite version of the troll. This arm is feeling a little funky to me, though, because it's like the same thickness all the way down, and it basically is just one kind of curvy tube. Maybe a little more definition on the upper arm, or maybe the upper arm is thinner, and then it actually has a bigger forearm than it has upper arm, just to change the shapes up a little bit and give it a little change of silhouette. Yeah. Or that hand could even just be reaching up and like scratching his belly. I try to always find a way that each hand can be expressing something. I don't, just having an arm and hand hanging there is just unused potential, where we could be doing it to tell anything, something. So I feel like, you know, scratching his belly, adjusting his belt, that sort of thing would be right along with what this character is about. Nick. Were these both? Okay, Nicholas and then Nick. Yes. Goblin Scout. Ooh, okay. These are good. These are good sketches. They're clean, but they're also not so well rendered that I feel bad for asking you to change anything. This Goblin Scout feels a bit too human for me, as in like his clothing is more well done. He's got more accoutrements. He's more civilized. So he needs to be brought back. They're more in our case, a little more caveman, a little more rugged. So, you know, we need to drop, maybe as a telescope, but like instead of a proper tabard, if he has one, it's all ripped or it's patched together. Or if he has a hood, then it's more like just a piece of cloth that he's kind of tied over his head. A little less refined, a little less higher technology, society, that sort of thing. Hunter, I like it. Cocking the crossbow, short cloak blowing in the wind. Yeah, good. Go with it. Barbarian. Yeah, I'm feeling that. It's good weight, good, you know, something interesting on the end. You know, the triple thing coming off the end of it. Some different shapes on the end here. Good expression. This is nice too. The double hand on it, and even that. Yeah, Orli mentions it, says it well here. The goblin looks more like a playable class and not a monster. Yeah, it does. And obviously some enemies, and I think we'll do in the future another challenge where we're just focusing on the enemies, the bad guys, and not do the hero classes. But yeah, if you just subbed his face out for a human, it would totally work. So I need the rest of the body to go along with the goblin feeling. So like on his body, I mentioned on the other one, almost the same stance, but their body was straight on. I'm more okay with it being straight on here because at least that one arm is crossing in front of the body, and then it has the handle coming across the body too. So he's offsetting it, and he's breaking up the perfect symmetry by having that pose. And that's where you can get away with some of that straight on posing. Big cloak stuff. Good extra blade in the back. Yeah, keep going with it. Interesting to see what you do with the colors, etc. Yeah, you named your guys. All right. Peter Melokule. I'm going to butcher your names. Milokule, Yvette, Bartkus. I don't know how to pronounce it when you put 2 dots over it. That's not something we do in English. I don't know what that means. Okay, this is too well rendered for concept. Always makes your art teacher or art director go, because we don't want to ask you to change things when you've already refined them this much. But you do that enough times on a paying job, and you will learn not to do that because you're going to end up wasting a lot of time when you can be doing other things. But it's not a paying job, so it's up to you. Okay, the paladin. The glowing symbols coming off of the armor, it's good. And you kept it minimal. That's the way it would need to be for that. Shapes look good, look like they can work. That scabbard needs to be on the other side. If he's right-handed, he's going to pull the sword from his left side. If he's left-handed, he's going to pull it from his right side. If you're right-handed, you can't hardly pull a sword out from a scabbard on your right side. So we'll need to switch that. Either put the sword in his other hand or switch the scabbard to his other side. Maybe even interesting if you could make that that curvy diamond symbol. Like, I was just thinking if you had like the symbol on his forehead or carved, buzzed into his hair. I was trying to think of something with the face to give him a little more of the paladin. Even if you gave him, it's not a crown, what do you call it? It's not a tiara, because that goes up here. Whatever the thing is, like, you just wear it across your brow, your forehead, and maybe it has that little symbol in it. That would offset it a little bit, just kind of give the face a little more tie into the rest of it. This is also a character that you can maybe even close his eyes. I'm just kind of thinking. Yvette, that one doesn't work as well. It comes, when you first glance at it, it's more like an entertainer. That's more of the pose that I would expect to see from a circlet. You might be right. Is it called a circlet? Maybe it is. I think some of the elves wore them in the Lord of the Rings movies. I don't know that you would need to go that elegant. They were very fine Art Nouveau styles, but something on that lines. Yeah, so this is kind of more of a bard. It's like, hey, check it out. With the Blade Mage. The Blade Mage is a swords master. And so we need to get more about that. Like, we need to have her, she's less about the show, the flying daggers. Can we tone it down? Can we make her more, like, her design is okay, but the personality that she's giving off. So maybe she has like the sword kind of in front of her. She's preparing to duel, and then she's got her hand kind of going behind her, and she's got these daggers. Instead of just being this flat, that's one of the things about this pose is it's all flat. She's completely flat to you. Her hands are straight out to the side. The blades are completely flat across this way. The sword is completely flat. So we want to give more depth. Like, the sword is kind of coming towards you a little bit. The arm's coming towards you a little bit. Then these blades, imagine if the blades kind of went around her. And, her hand in the back is controlling them as they float up and make this spiral kind of around her. And all of a sudden it gives depth to it. And you have overlapping. You're going to get more out of it altogether. The little troll. A goblin, sorry. Little goblin. Skin tone's okay. General look. Big bat ears. That's good. We want to change up the body, though. He's super, super skinny. It would be better if we just gave him a squatter, a little bit thicker body, giving more of a belly. Yeah, just kind of a bigger belly, a little more rounded in the back. He's used to living underground and scrunching down. Richard. Okay. Got the barbarian, orc, the golem, elementalist. Orc face, it's working, comes across, orc. I find it interesting he has a beard. You don't see a lot of orcs with beards. I think if you're going to do that, you could even double down on the beard. He's got, you know, twice as big of a beard. But the stance overall throws me off a little bit. When I glance at it, it's like, I'm ready to go camping. Not, I'm ready to, you know, waylace to these guys in a blood rage. So we want to get more of that out of him. And if you want to... Oh, yeah. We need more of that attitude. Barbarians should come across as power, angry, strength, even if it's reserved. And we looked at some of the references that these big guys, you can just tell it's just power kept in check. And this guy just looks like he's kind of happy-go-lucky. And find a way to do that. If he's, you know, if he had like, you know, if you took this blade off and then you gave him this warhammer strapped to his back, so he's holding the straps to this ridiculous big warhammer, that would get you closer while not having to completely redo it. Also, his legs have this big back lean to them. And this leg shouldn't be completely sideways to us because his body isn't completely sideways. So we need, this leg is straight on, this leg is completely sideways. We need to turn that leg. All right, this guy's getting too fancy for a minor golem. We need to drop the spider. We need to drop the floating things. Probably even simplify the body. Let's get rid of the one on the arm. We can just have the big 3 juts on the top with some big, you know, rock pieces. That's fine. Then the rest of it slim down a little bit. So this guy should have like one major feature, and that's kind of it. Then mainly it's just the, and this should be a simple sword. Like this sword is huge, well, because it looks like it's coming, you know, it's almost as big as his body. So bit more normal size. She is interesting, elementalist. Let's lengthen that skirt out more unless she's got some sort of leggings on. Otherwise, it just looks like she's wearing a mini skirt. So, yeah, either give her leggings or increase the skirt length. And if you do the designs around her, then make sure they're realistic. That she's hovering these actual flowers and petals around her. Yeah. And you might put some, you've got like some marks on her face. Then we also might put some marks down her arms and on her hands, like magic sigils, markings, or you know, elvish runes, that sort of thing. Okay, good. I'm good with that. Sarah Dory. Traveling Blade Mage Performer. Satyr Blade Mage 2, CG, Humanoids, Dex, Comeback, Waster. Okay, yeah, Blade Mage, not so much Performer. That's more of your bard character. Yeah, Blade Mage. Okay, one thing I've got to note is we have to have the horns aligned correctly. You have the horns level, which is fine if the face was not tilted. But because the face is tilted down, if the eyes are at this level, the horns have to be at that level too. So as much angle the eyes have at this angle, the horns have to be at that angle, which means that other horn top needs to be down here, not up there. And we've got it where it looks like they're really leaning forwards. Remember that, and this, yeah, we got to work with the pose here because it looks like they're really leaning forwards. And their center of weight would be really all on this foot. But we don't know that those are different levels, so it looks like that foot's 5 feet behind the other foot. So that's one of the reasons that we kind of want the feet on the same level, like we saw in some of the other illustrations, because we don't know the context of what they're standing on. And we don't really want to show very much of that. We don't want to start adding an environment around them. Yeah. Now, there was somebody that did like a goblin that was standing on some rocks, and it worked fine for that, so whoever did that, don't worry about it. But in this case, it's not working so much. We want to make them look a little more deadly. Less like an entertainer, less like a bard, more like just this deadly swords master. Pot goblin. Yeah, I can see a goblin wearing a pot. They're scroungy little suckers. This is another one. It looks like he's going to fall backwards. Because the weight, if you get each heel of the foot, and you kind of imagine a line between them, then you imagine the middle spot on that line, that's where the center of weight has to be. That means that each foot is taking half of the weight, and the weight's distributed along that line. And if you run that up here, you notice that there's way more body on the right side of that line than there is the left side of that line. There's way more weight over here. So that means that if that character was there, unless they've got 3 bars of gold weighing them down on this side to offset the weight, there's no way. So we've got to move that leg, or maybe both legs, back a little bit to make it so they're not falling over. And I'm thinking, right, spear seems really short. Like we don't see the other end. We could have a short spear. Might even be interesting if they had the pot lid, instead of on the shoulder, treating it like a shield. And so that they have it kind of wrapped to their arm like a shield. Yeah, no, just an idea. Keep going with it. Oh. I'm going to attempt your name, and I'm going to get it wrong. Terayushia. Terayushia. I will call you Tara. Because I'm English, and I don't know how to pronounce names like that. Well, I speak English, and I don't know how to pronounce names like that. Hunter. Okay, giving the hunter animal companion. I'm okay with that. That's fun. Giving her a rock star hairdo. This is another one. It looks weird. Like this leg is completely sideways. That one's like completely flat to us. It'd be better. And then also it looks like they're stepping down. Let's just have the legs more at the same level. Gets weird. I think this is a character that could really do well if they had some sort of cloak. Doesn't have to be a full cloak, like give them a hood. And then maybe it's kind of like a vest cloak where It's thin here. I'm trying to think. You've got some good shapes and stuff going on, but it just seems a little like it needs a larger shape to kind of unify it together. Instead of, you have a lot of medium and small shapes. We kind of need a larger shape to pull it together. So imagine like a vest. It doesn't have sleeves, and it has a hood on the back, and then it comes down. It's not tied in the front, but yet it kind of has like a longer tail that comes down back here, and it widens out in the back. I think that would really offset the character well. Can we do something more interesting with this? Is that like a plate? Not a breastplate, but ab plate? Is that what you call it? That seems like kind of a really lazy shape. If we could find some more interesting way to do that, even if it's just fabric and, you know, and they have ties across the fabric. I mean, or even, they could even have maybe bare midriff. I don't really care. Elementalist. No, this is getting too far from just a standard elementalist. This is like, almost more like a siren, oracle sort of feeling character. We need a basic kind of nature. It's like a nature wizard. We're getting too far away from that, so we need to bring that back. Try to do it without using the water. If you need to use a little supporting, like a leaf or two, a rock by their foot, that sort of thing. But right now, you're starting to go beyond this being about the character to being about, showing who the character is by showing you all this other stuff. And also, let's back away from the, this is kind of a very sensual kind of dance thing. No, this is about, we need to show how awesome this character is about using their magic and make them less sexy, more badass. The troll. Okay. No, that's going the right way. Right now, everything is really straight to us. We need to change that again. Let's find another way. Let's add some twist to the body. That's a very simple answer that works in most cases. Is let's just have the lower body turn slightly one way, have the upper body turn slightly the other way, and then have the head turned, knock my glasses off, even just looking off on a profile view. That would help you out a lot. Same thing with like the club. The club is coming directly at us. The hand is coming directly at us. And that actually makes them feel flattened out. If something comes straight at you, you don't get to see the depth of the forms, so the foreshortening doesn't add that much. Oh, yep. Is that the end of that line? I think so. Okay, Tron. I'm not sure how you say it with the H on the end. You got some good concepts, but these are really doled out. And that's actually not going to show up on screen very well. So I am going to open that up so I can properly see those. When you send it in, make sure that I can see it, and make sure, whatever company you get to start working with, that they can easily see it. There's no reason that this all needs to be so faded out. So I'm going to just come up to levels. I'm going to click white, the white dipper right here, which means white balance. Whatever I click on, consider that white and balance it to that. Boom, pushes that up to white. But then we lose that guy. So, okay, that's not going to work. Can we move this? I'm going to have to manually do this. See, like, you need to have this all fixed before I deal with it. Because that's a killer design right there. but I could barely see it when I opened it. See? Like this is what we have when we open it, and then just, we need to have more like that. Okay, so you did more designs. All right. Elf Elementalist, that's good. I like it. Go with it. Focus on that one. That one's working well. Good energy, good light. Human Blade Mage. He's got the daggers. That's good, but also give him a sword. It might be kind of the Arabian style where they have the sword. I don't know how realistic it is. I see it in movies and drawings, so whatever. They have like a short sword that goes behind their lower back. And so if you don't want to have like a full scabbard, you could have like, you know, the hilt coming out here and then the end of the scabbard blade, you know, coming out there or over the shoulder, whatever. But let's give him a proper, bigger blade, but then also the daggers. Dwarf Paladin. Dude, Dwarf Paladin. Good choice. Like it. Very stoic. I think it works for him. Let's find something interesting to do with that shield. The octong... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hexagon. Hexagon have 8. Pentagon has 5. Hexagon has 6, right? I'm trying to remember. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hexagon has 6 sides. Yeah, octagon has 8. Yeah, so the hexagon shield, that's a good shape. I think it works well for the dwarf. See if you can find some sort of relief to it, like depth, like some relief or design. You know, put the shape of a crystal on it, put the shape of a dragon head, something. That would work. The hammer, let's find a good silhouette. Dude, even if you put horns on the hammer, I mean, that'd be kind of cool. Like the hammer head is actually like a ram's head. I mean, that would be sort of cool. That, you know, the whole thing's like carved out of something. It could be a stone or it could be metal, whatever. Yeah, octagon for 8, but this has 6, so it would be hexagon. Orc Barbarian, I don't know what's going on with the face, but otherwise it's got a good feeling to it. Troll. Yeah, Troll's working. Maybe a bigger lower jaw. I think it would work with that body type. And let's give him something he's holding. Give him his club across here. Golem getting too fancy. Think more Clayface Batman, but with a simple mask and just dirty old sword. They don't have a lot of energy. They're your zombies of golems. They're on the slow side. They don't have a lot of energy. They kill you by sheer numbers. Yeah. Orc Barbarian. Force Troll, Satyr Elementalist, Tony. All right, Tony. I'm liking a lot of the designs for your Orc Barbarian, but I'm not loving the view, and I'm not loving the pose. So I think you've thought of some good, kind of Oriental influences, but we need to redo it. We need, so like, use this as the design direction. Say, okay, that's a good design direction, but we need to come up with a new pose and a new angle. We're not looking down on him. Let's look at him sideways. Go out there, look at the other D&D images. Look at these other ones I'm going to post up on Facebook. Notice, like, we don't need to see this much difference in the feet. Let's try to level the feet out so we're just straight on, level-wise. And I'm not sure how, like, that pose. Like, if I thought about holding something in that pose, that doesn't really work. Like, that arm being up here, trying to hold something with that arm down here with my knees bent, it doesn't work. Try getting in that pose and understand that's not a powerful position. This should be somebody that should just reek of strength and just, you know, somebody that's ready to just rage out on a group, and by sheer muscle and power and anger is going to dominate the battlefield. Forest Troll. Get a bit more of the Asian influence off of it. That's okay. I like seeing a little more of that direction in some of the designs. We have the rib cage curving in, which is weird. If we have that big of a belly, we need to be rounding this out, at least straightening that off. His rib cage is literally caving in on the back. So we got to double check that. Check the anatomy on this. Like, the shoulder is going straight into the bicep. Yeah, double check this. Like, even if you're a skinny dude, you can take a webcam, you know, picture with your shirt on, and just look how the muscles overlap with each other, and how the rib cage, you know, connects into the arm. And that anatomy information is going to help you out a lot there. Same thing with the leg. Like this, the body is facing to the left, but this knee is facing to the right. You literally have the leg turned the opposite direction from the body, which is, I don't know that's possible without really hurting something. So that knee needs to be folding the other way, even if it is just towards us, but not away from us, the other direction. Same thing again. I'm gonna have to say, go back to your poses. Gotta double check your poses, ground your poses in something real, stand in your poses of what you're trying to do. Get to where you understand, just for a minute, try to take that pose. Have somebody take a picture of you with their phone and you can look at it. Because the same thing with the satyr. That's you've got the really odd thing with the legs, with this leg is folded, that leg is folded backwards, but it's both opposite from the upper body. I think you're twisting these too far. We can also scale the troll down a little bit. I know he's bigger than everybody else, but we can split the difference there. When you send him back in, you can bring his head to about there. That's fine. Our overall design, again, the overall designs of these, I don't have a big problem with. Not so sexy on her. We don't want to make them so... we don't want to play up the sensual side. We want to play up the adventuring, cool, capable, give her more pouches of stuff that she might use in her elemental magics. Give her an extra dagger that she could use. So you want to play up that side of her. It's less of a model and more, like Sarah Connor or, think of... I don't guess we have that many kick-ass ladies in fantasy movies. I'm sure there is, and you guys will tell me, but I can't think of them. Okay, Travis. The Barbarian is a good direction, but let's take him even further. Can we beef him up anymore? I mean, that's good. I was like somebody at the local gym that's been working out quite a bit, but we want to take it beyond that. We want The Rock. We want, Mr. Universe. We want Hathor Bjornsson. just edge of human physicality. This guy's massively brutish. And Avatar: The Last Airbender. No, wait, Korra? All right, I guess you guys are talking about something. I'm not sure what you're talking about. So that's fine for direction. It's reading a little more skirt-like than what we need. Can we make it like more like a tabard or multiple layers of kind of skirts? Even if you just got like, if you made this a little looser, or it's, yeah, multiple layers of strips of fabric might work better. And yeah, just beef him up more. Try to beef his weapon up more too. Consider doing some sort of, if you're not going to have hair or any kind of helmet, that sort of thing, then some sort of war paint on his face, designs, tattoos, any of those things. Let's add another layer to it that way. With the elementalist, that other arm is getting too foreshortened. You're stretching that foreshortening too much. It's getting too little too fast. Yeah, Brienne of Tarth. Yeah, that's an option. Yeah. I was trying to think of Lord of the Rings. I guess the only lady that's really good with a sword is the Rohan lady. I can't remember her name. I liked her. She was a good character. Good role for the actress too. The elementalist, that's looking more like a spear than a staff. Did I say, what weapon did I say for the elementalist? Anything? No. Okay. That looks a little more like a spear. Can we turn it into like a magic staff? It'd be more interesting, fit with the character more. Let's get rid of the water. That's kind of cool, but let's keep it more to the character. They've got this cloak thingy. Let's make that, either make it bigger or find better shapes to it. Eowyn. That's right, there was Arwen and Eowyn. Arwen was the elf lady, and Eowyn was from Rohan. That's right, yeah. Because Eowyn's doing like her practice, and then Aragorn steps up and like blocks her blade. Yeah. It took me a second because I wasn't sure like what was going on here. But make sure you just reference like fabrics, cloaks in the wind, that sort of thing. I say that too much, that sort of thing. I need to stop saying that so much. This is on the right line. It's very crude. Less skeletal, less mimic of the ribs and the spine. So we can just have that a little more monotonous across, through the body. And that could work. Yep. Deezus says, I like the ticket option, I think, because not everyone will want to patron at a high tier every month, especially artists that are already working might not have time. Yeah, I agree. Like the tossing the challenge to being only available to the higher patrons, not the ideal. And I'm actually looking at other options besides Patreon. If I only did it monthly, then I would stick with Patreon. But Patreon is not at a high enough level that I can afford to do it monthly. It's not always cost effective for me to do it. So I have to do it by per creation. But the thing is, it still has to be run monthly, which I don't know why. I think Patreon really, really shoots themselves in the foot by saying you can release it anytime you want to, but we still can only process it on the 1st. that just means that it's monthly in disguise. And, you know, other platforms don't. Other platforms, like, there's not a reason why you can't run online transactions at any time, any day of the month, any time of the day. You know, I noticed that there was another platform started that does a lot of the same things as Patreon. And they also bring in things like being able to do online consultations. So if I spend more time looking at it and it can do what I need, I'll probably just switch over to that and fold the consultations out of my other website and bring it all under this new platform. Like, I could be able to sell tickets, run the monthly or per creation rewards off of there, and do consultations off of one platform. That's a win-win. And I could just consolidate 3 sites worth of functions into one site. So hopefully that's the case. That would be really great. Okay, William, interesting approaches. Okay, the hunter, you're going with the bird design. No, that's it's not. It's an interesting idea, but it's not good to represent the whole of the class as a whole, because it's so bird heavy. If I were to look at it, I would think that's what this class is about. It's something about birds, and it's not. That would just be this particular character. So we need to back it up. The overall stance, loading the bolt and the crossbow, that's okay. Pose, the lower legs maybe are a little short. Looks like maybe the shins are short compared to the rest of it, or the upper body's a little big. So check that. But yeah, we need to dial back on the bird thing. Let's take the bird thing off, make them more, you know, give them a hood, give them more of a hunter feeler, give them stuff for traps, maybe give them a rope to bind things up, that sort of thing. Okay, the goblin. Okay, the goblin's proportions are making them look very childlike because you have so much cranium over the head that it gives them a very almost baby proportions, where the eyes are very low in the head. So we need to scale back the size of their cranium a little bit, make them a little less childlike. Good design though, so let's scale that back. Then let's play into that pose even more. So the head even further down on the shoulders, the belly sticking out, in the sunken chest even more, the knees bent a little more. So just crunch him down a little bit more. The rest of it, I like. The barbarian. So this is good. This is good. The barbarian isn't in this big actiony pose. He's just very stoic. He feels powerful, and a lot of that's due to the shapes. Really good shape choices on the barbarian, and you've got this kind of. I'm assuming that's a kilt, the Scottish sort of kilt, which is fantastic. I think that works really well for this older fella, and you've got like the star design on his forehead. Cool beans. Let's find a better shape for the hammer. I mean, that's fine for a basic shape, but you know, the ends need to come out. Give it some spikes. Give it some I want to say elevations. But yeah, subdivide it with some more interesting shapes. But yeah, I'm really interested with that guy. Particularly like some of the face, the beard, the mohawk. Yeah, good. And again, like I said, the barbarian doesn't have to be Mr. Universe, which can work well. That's kind of the Conan the Barbarian approach. Or you can go like this guy. This guy is just, he's just beefy. He's a big boy. Last one up is Yanis. Okay. Okay, for the barbarian. Oh, that reminds me. I was going to go find this reference image. It's probably on this computer. I'm trying to remember where I saved it. I don't remember where I saved it. I will try to go find it and post it online. But it was a guy who did drawings. Maybe one of you guys will know. Maybe I can jog your memory. Came across his stuff on ArtStation. He drew female orcs. I think they were just black and white sketches. I don't think they were colored. And he had these female orcs and all of these action poses. Like he had like 6 or 7 these orcs like jumping forwards, running, thrusting spears. Some of them were getting hit. Beautiful shapes, motion. And one of the things that he did really well was he had these really powerful looking females that didn't look bad. Like a lot of times if you try to make a female character look really strong, it starts getting weird. Like you just kind of put a lady's face on a guy. And this one did Baird Wu. Is that right? That sounds like that might be right. Okay, go check out Baird Wu. B-A-Y-A-R-D-W-U. That sounds right. I bet that's it. And that's more what you need. If you're going to do a barbarian human character, it needs to have more of that physique. It's the Amazon warrior physique where the lady is, she's ripped. All right. And she's got more muscles than most guys. And yeah, check them out. Middle one's the closest for what we need. Attitude, the hair, ponytail, just kind of breastplate. Not the knives, that's too weak. Don't love the legs though. Might switch it over to more of the lower body from this one, but kind of the upper body from that one. Hunter half elf. Either of these two. But if you do this one, make sure you're looking at the references of cloaks billowing, either cloaks folding around somebody. If you want to know of some good references for cloaks being blown around somebody's body, go look at the images by Alex Ross, the comic book painter. He has some images of Batman and Superman that have their cloaks blowing around them. So go check that out. Let me double check. That's probably the right link. I'm just opening your link to, was it Baird Wu? See if that's the one I was thinking of or not. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, these are fantastic. Okay, so Kitsune. Hopefully I'm saying that right. But yeah, that's exactly the one I was thinking about. I'll pull it over here so everybody else can see who doesn't want to have to look them up. So this is Barrett Wu. Check these out. I'll move down here. Wonderfully powerful looking characters that are also simultaneously remaining very feminine. And great action to the characters, a lot of motion. Yeah, this dude knows his anatomy. He knows what he's doing here. Even has some GIFs here. You can see the painting process, how they built it up. I need to do some practicing like this. This is great. I might even do a challenge that's more like this. All action poses. Yeah, that would be good. So, on that line. So go check out these. Make sure you're adding those to your reference folder. Ronda Rousey. Yeah, not a bad one to look at for just idea of the kind of physique and how they carry themselves. Okay, Minor Golem. This mask is a little too like, not that mask. No mouth. Like this one would work if you took the mouth out. They don't talk. They don't have the ability to talk. Not so much this body. I mean, it's like it's not creating a good silhouette. It just looks more like a two-legged thing. We kind of see something back here. Think of it like you're doing a zombie, but instead of being undead, you make it more out of rocks or clay. That sort of thing. Just the shuffling form. It doesn't have to be real fancy. It shouldn't be fancy. It's a very simple creature. So there you go. That is your rundown. Just as a recap, you do have 2 weeks until the final. I will let you guys know if there will be a live stream next week. And this challenge is still open. If you want to jump in, you have not jumped in yet, then feel free. You don't have to have submitted a sketch. You will need to go out to Patreon and at least finishing out this one, you do need to be a patron. And we will continue the conversation on tickets, not tickets, lottery system, how we're going to, make this work. And if you have more questions, then join us, of course, out on the Swatches art group. Just go to swatches.group. It will link you to the correct Facebook group. Ask to join. I will try to go out there every morning and okay people that have asked. And I will put out some more reference images for you guys, some of the stuff we looked at, and try to throw in some of the pictures we just looked at from the other gallery. What else? Yeah, you'll probably find it helpful if you've not picked up my ebook. Then, yeah, go pick it up. I think it's $10, 10 or 12, right around there. And go to swatchesart.com, 66 pages, gives you the rough of the character designing approach. And I do want to do volume 2 at some point. There's other things like, I don't have anything about posing in that book. And that's one of the topics I want to go over. I want to go over other topics like age, showing maybe nationality, showing subhuman or part humans, doing like other fantasy characters, doing semi-alien characters. So someday we'll get to that. But I got to wrap it up now. I got to get home, do some more drawing myself. But I appreciate everyone joining. Thank you so much to all my patrons. You guys literally make this possible, and you are the ones that keep this going. So thank you. And hopefully you guys, got something out of the feedback. I look forward to seeing everybody's finals in 2 weeks. And we will have a chat. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Okay. It's like, I knew there was something about announcements. Post out on the Swatches Facebook group. I will try to remember to put a link in the description to this video. I had a video chat with Adam Duff from Lucid Pixel. Go check that out. So Adam and I got in touch with each other a while back, and I said, we guys, you know, we got to collaborate. Adam's got good input on a lot of stuff, and he does similar work as me. He goes a little bit more into some of the darker things that I do. So go listen to his stuff. He also talks about topics really important to us artists. And that's what we wanted to do in the video that we just released. It's out on his channel, Lucid Pixel. It's on his channel, LucidPixul. He changes it, UL. And we talk about just different things like, how do you know when you're ready to start working professionally? How do you work when you're not motivated? And we just kind of chat back and forth. So it's about an hour long, so sit down if you're doing some sketching or you don't want to do something else, just go listen to it. So there we go. Good for a drive. Go listen to it. It's podcast style. All right, well, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you, guys. I will catch you next week. Keep drawing.